Welcome to the More Than Dice video tutorial on object source lighting. As you can see by my palette, I have laid out already fluorescent yellow and fluorescent orange and a mixture of the two with white to increase the opacity. You can see even just here how much brighter these are than this is a Reaper Clear Red, which is normally really bright looking, but next to these fluorescent colors it looks much more muted. That's why we use the fluorescents for fire, flamey things. The fluorescent blue is not quite so in-your-face bright, but it still interacts with light in an interesting way. And this blue is a secret weapon, blue verdigris. Then I have a little green, which I mixed with my red to make this sort of darker, muted red color. And all of these are going to help us with our object source lighting. You may remember the models that we used for flames. She's the one I used for the blue flame demonstration. Obviously I used a different one for the orange flame, but this guy's got this flamey sword, so we're going to use him for to do some object source lighting on his face and on some of his armor. So we're starting out with the blue. The first thing you want to do when you're doing OSL, object source lighting, is paint your light source first, which is what we did. If the source is on the model. I mean, you can have a source that's not even on the model. That's just, you want it to look like there's a light shining from, from far away onto the model. It's the same principle. What you want to do is you want to imagine in your mind's eye how the light is shining from the object, what direction the light's coming from and what areas are going to be lit by the light. Sometimes it's helpful if you have a small flashlight or LED light or something. You can shine it, right down at the model just to get an idea of what parts of the model are going to be hit by the light. It helps you figure out where you want to put your reflections, your reflected light. So with that being said, I've got some blue I'm going to start out with. I can figure out where on the model this blue is going to be. It's kind of shining from all over, so the top of her arms is going to be hit by it. The shirt here. I'm kind of going to just go in a bit of a line across her hair here. And this is just a very translucent fluorescent blue. It's incredibly transparent, so it's just giving you a hint of color, and you can barely even see it right now. We'll throw some highlights in there in a little bit to accentuate that. Some people like to wet blend this color on. I'm just glazing it. I mean, either way you want to do it. If you feel more comfortable wet blending it into your skin tones while you're painting those, it's certainly an option. I find that to be a little more of a challenge for me, so I'm just glazing this color over my already finished color. I hate to paint over my flesh tone when it turned out so well, but sometimes, you know, you want an effect, you got to take that chance. And I think that's why a lot of people approach object source lighting with trepidation, because, you know, you're basically painting over your model that you've already painted and you like how it turned out, and now you're afraid you're going to just ruin what you just did. Sometimes it's nice to practice on a model you don't care about so much, just so you can get used to the principles. So on this part, the light's coming closer to her hair. Put a little more blue there, and that's going to get a bigger highlight of lighter colors too, because it's closer to the surface of the model, of the arm and the jacket and the head here than it is on the other side. We'll put some on the shirt tails because, you know, you can see they're right up next to that light. And now we want to do the stuff that's on the floor. I purposefully left that lighter when I was painting it because I knew I wanted it to be nice and bright. You can see me dabbing this on my thumb. That's just to get a little excess paint off of the brush so I don't leave giant blobs on my model by mistake. When you see people painting their thumb, that's usually what they're doing, is just trying to mitigate disaster. So I'm taking this blue through that white that I left on the base and into the brown parts of the wood too. So it kind of gives that illusion of kind of blending, you know, from one part to the other. That's all we're doing, is creating an illusion here, optical illusion. So I'm going to take some of that darker verdigris blue, put that around the edges. It's still a fairly translucent blue paint, the Secret Weapon verdigris. Not nearly as transparent as the fluorescent blue. That's why it serves a different purpose. I'll get just a little plain water on my brush to kind of spread it around a little. In there. big. All right. Now we'll do a little bit of a highlight. I've got some of that blue mixed with the white. It's going to go up here on her arm. It's reflecting off her hand too. We'll just hit the edges of that shirt. I think it'll be a good idea to hit it with even a lighter highlight too. So I'll hit the edge of that, the hat there. Anywhere where you think the light from those flames would be hitting the surface of the model. Just a little bit on the edge of the hat. I hit the edges of the shirt, just the wrinkles of the shirt fabric here. I'll do a little on just a tiny bit here. It's a slight tint. Just took a little water, just plain water on my brush to kind of try and smooth the edges of this paint right here out. Now we'll hit the hair just with the edge of the brush. I'm just doing this with the side of the brush so I can just hit the edges of the hair. So I'm not splashing a lot of paint on, just hitting it with the side of the bristles. That's what you want to do. That's the side we wanted a little bit more on because it's closer to the light. Just throw a little onto a few other little areas here. I think the light might be the top of the thigh a little. Maybe a little bit over here on the side of the thigh. Maybe all the way up there. Yeah. And her jacket. So you can kind of imagine the light coming in from that direction. And then coming in from this direction too. I'm going to mix up a little bit of a lighter highlight here. Because I feel like that the last blue one was a little on the dark side. Throw a bunch of that fluorescent blue in there with it. I had to throw a bunch of it in with white because it's so, the pigment is so thin. Not like the yellow and orange, which are really dense. I'm going to put a little more white in there. I know you can't see my palette, but that's what I'm doing. Alright. The thing with the fluorescent paint is that it's a little glossy too, so when you hit it with the anti-shine, once you're done, that'll help lessen that effect. My lighter color. I feel like I went a little too dark right here. I want to fix that a little. Now we're going to the jacket again. Just hitting the edges. The jacket. Again, we're just using the side of the brush just to hit the top parts of these textures. As I get closer to the flame, I'm just going really light with that little extra white. The hands that are into the flame. And a piece of the hat that's right next to the flame will get nice and bright reflection there. the hair. I'm going to do a really bright highlight just at the tips of everything. Now I'm looking at the hair and I see that there's kind of a line there, and I kind of want to make that sort of not quite so sharp, this line of blue into the red. So work on that a little. We're almost done here. Can't forget that little highlight. I think the bottom of the hat's going to get hit by some light from underneath here too, as I look at it. So we'll just paint that in there. There. I'll post some pictures of the finished model up on the More Than Dice Facebook page, so you can get a better sense of the finished product. Now let's move on to the warm, fiery flame. I get my mind wrapped back around that instead of the blue. Alright, we're going to start with some darker color. I mixed some red with some of the fluorescent orange. So we're going to imagine in our mind's eye how the light going to hit this guy. That's actually too dark. So mix some of that lighter color that we mixed ahead of time, that yellow and orange fluorescent. I'll hit it with that. You know it's going to hit his face here. It's going to hit his teeth, his nose, the horn thing. He's got some scales here. We need to keep that texture. We don't want to lose that. It kind of fades away from the flame. It'll get thinner. But now we've got this part that's sticking out. I'm going to put a little on that part. And slightly lighter. You can see it getting warmer. I'll catch the bottom of his chin there. A little bit on the edges of his cheek, his eye. This leather strap here for his armor. You'll see it on the carapace. Use the edge of the brush again to put some on the edge of this strap of armor here. It's going to be reflecting on this too, the shield. I'm just kind of dry brushing a little there. You don't want to go too far over because eventually this curvature is not going to be reflecting the light of the torch anymore. So you got to kind of imagine the torchlight's coming from this way, so all of this part's going to still be in shadow. I'm just dry brushing this on here. And the shoulder here. And his head is going to be blocking some of that light from getting behind him too, so you can be aware of that too. His chin is going to block it, so there's going to be a shadow under his chin. I'll go right across his brow ridge. Right up next to the sword, we're just going to go really bold with the fluorescent orange. It'll be nice and bright right up next to the sword, right where the light is. The closer to the light, the brighter and lighter that color is going to seem to be. And the further away it gets, it's going to get more muted. This whole side of his face, I think we might leave blank because his eye is going to be casting the shadow there. But this is going to pick up some of this up here. So we'll put some more of the orange there. A little bit more of that fluorescent yellow and orange mixed with white here. A little bit there. And some on his shoulder there. But not on the other side, because it's further away. It's in the shadow. The tippy top of that might not be, though. And some more doodads here to reflect that light. And his arm itself. Put a little more of the fluorescent orange here. There. Dry brush down a little. Maybe hit his knuckles just a little. The top of his thumb. These knuckles, dry brush a little. You see the forearm right there is going to get a little. Top of his thigh. It's going to reflect a little bit. Maybe the top of his foot a little. I don't want to forget the base itself. That's certainly going to be reflecting some of that light. Just dry brushing this color on. I might be wrecking my good brush mixing all these colors together. Just make sure and give it a good bath once I'm done. Is this thigh gonna get any though? Maybe a little. Just a touch. And it'll be the darker orangey red color that I made instead of that really bright color. I think his fist on his other hand gets some too, right? Maybe under here. It's shining through there. Yep. Edge of the shield there. Look at that really light color. The edge of the shield. Be really bright. So you can see this guy's glowing. He's got that torch really reflecting off of these surfaces now. It was a little less intense than the Malifaux model, because that one had that light going all around it, and this one just has the light out in front of it. It's much more from one direction. Makes it a bit easier. I think we've got this guy. Just a couple little real light highlights in a couple areas. Maybe on these teeth over here. His chin. Yeah. Definitely some flaming stuff going on there. Alright. I'll be posting pictures of this one as well up on the More Than Dice Facebook page, so you can see, you know, what the finished pictures look like. These are some of the colors I use. These are Vallejo model color. Orange, blue, yellow. They also make a green and a magenta fluorescent, which are really cool for other fun lighting effects or just mixing in with your paints in general. These are also some colors I use, the Reaper Master Series clear green, and clear red. And then the Secret Weapon Verdigris blue. And so that's what it looked like on my palette here. We got the blues all the way up to the lightest. We have a whole range of oranges, reds, yellow mixed together. Well, thanks for joining me on the Object Source Lighting video. I hope it was helpful.